We are now recording.
Okay.
FYI.
Yeah, Julie, let's discuss probably at the end maybe about the open space stuff.
Okay.
Steve and I were on a call today regarding management of open space. And I know Steve's gonna run that application on his smartphone.
Mhm.
You mean my flip phone?
Yeah, I almost said something during the meeting.
Does yours still have do you have to pull out the antenna when you open it up?
Oh, no, it's newer than that.
It's really modern.
Oh.
However, there is an iPad in the house.
That should work.
You gonna cart that out in the field?
Well, it's not that big.
Okay. I'll take that as yes.
However, it is fairly old. It may not work.
Mm,
Oh, what's that's just a little.
If it's an iPad and Apple has anything to do with it, it probably doesn't work anymore.
Well, it works fine, but I mean, with this application that it may not work on the iPad.
Oh,
Well, if you took like 5 fewer trips up north, you could afford to buy a new one just in the gas cost alone.
Nah,
Yeah. Mhm.
nah. How much is a new iPad? It's what, $700-800?
Yeah, it's about that. We just got
That's a
one.
lot of hiking.
Yep.
Benny's about 300.
Oh, 2 minutes. Gretchen's here. We'll get this going.
And a call from John Eric.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ron.
Julia, where do we stand on our new member?
Well, I'm pretty sure the mayor said she would prefer the woman who's a lawyer, but I don't know anything other than that.
Julia,
I
if
did
you're
get-
talking, you're muted.
She's talking to John Eric on the phone.
Oh, okay.
I did get my resume in for my reappointment.
good.
I don't need those things anymore.
All right, guys, John Eric is testing. He's going to be on later tonight. I'm testing him out as a panelist right now to make sure his video and audio work. John Eric, I still can't see you though.
I see he's there.
You're
But
muted.
he
and
needs
your camera's on.
unmute himself.
See, I can, no. Asking you to unmute. Are you getting anything from me? Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Dan.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
All right.
Good, thank you.
Get all your shoveling done?
Shoveled away.
Good. You can come finish my place if you want.
The snow blower was working overtime today.
Yes, it was. Glad I got my new one.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Cub Cadets are good.
All right, John Eric, are you here? Did he came and left? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, he has to log in from his other computer. I'm glad we tested this.
okay,
He'll be back. Just wanna
okay.
make sure he isn't. But it's 6:45, so you might as well get
Yep.
started.
Okay, let's bring this meeting to order. The Newburyport Conservation Commission meeting of February 2nd, 2021. This meeting is being recorded. Let me get some off my screen here. So first item is the approval of meeting minutes from January 19th, 2021. Anybody have any changes, additions, etc.?
Motion to approve?
Well, wait, if nobody else does, I do at the very end. Gretchen, the very last section on Plum Island updates, about halfway down through that paragraph, it says the concrete block wall has been destroyed and could not be reinstalled, and there is now no remaining beach. It should say there's now no remaining dune. And then we say, oh, and then the next sentence, DEP would likely not permit some possible solutions such as a stone revetment or sheet piles, which could worsen the problem by creating end sour. That should just be scour. And then the next sentence, DCR has released the Upper North Shore Regional, it should say sediment management study. And that's it.
Good.
if you-
Motion to approve as amended?
Second,
All right, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes,
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, the next item is Plum Island updates.
Okay, while I bring up those photos that I sent you, maybe Joe or David, do you want to give an update on the other stuff that was discussed at the MRBA meeting last week?
David, why don't you?
yeah, there was a meeting this past Friday, and quite a number of people attended. It was like 55, 56 or so. The majority of it was about the dredging project. I would say the two dredging projects, the one from Portsmouth and the one in Newburyport. And I was a little late. Were they saying that this was gonna, the dredging, the actual dredging was gonna start this fall? Or was it next fall?
I think they meant that they're going to try to start fall of, or late fall, early winter of 2022. I mean,
Yeah, that makes
2021,
a lot more sense.
2021.
Oh, so that is this fall.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
this, yeah.
And one of the things they talked about was the Corps is actually putting in for 60,000 yards within the Reservation Terrace area that would be included with the project. And they mentioned that if a larger amount, I think there was something like 225,000 yards they were kicking around, and it's possible to get more of that. I guess it's important that the state DCR get involved in this because they'd be the sponsor. And it sounds like there's a lot of paperwork to get in place here. They have to all be permitted and so forth. So, but it was very encouraging to hear that, as well as the Portsmouth project, which I believe the last meeting they weren't so certain that that was going to happen. And I guess now it's on its way for being implemented.
Yeah, weren't these two projects like two of the or two of the only ones that got approved?
Yeah, they mentioned that it was very impressive that these two were. I guess there was a lot of competition from other projects throughout the country. I guess there was some talk about Reservation Terrace. I don't think, I guess it was just a matter of that things are moving on it as far as trying to coordinate with the state and DEP and so forth. But I guess, Julia, maybe that would be a better subject to get into now that some additional erosions occurred.
Sure. So on Friday, I think the mayor was at the MRB meeting. She mentioned she was about to have later that afternoon a call with the lieutenant governor and DEP and CZM and those folks to talk about what they could do immediately at Reservation Terrace, especially given the upcoming storm, which we had last night. So you can see in this, can you guys see this photo that I put up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the sandbags. So they had the call, and at first they were talking about stones and revetments and sheet piling and hard structures, things like that. DEP said no. CZM said no, they're not going to allow any hard structures out there. And what they did do was they committed to assisting with sand and more sandbags and maintaining it until the river gets dredged. So they sort of committed to DCR and the state to trying to manage this problem area until such time as we can put that dredged sand on the dune. And this was the first step in front of the storm to put out these sandbags. And they needed an emergency certification from the Conservation Commission to do that. So yesterday morning, I got a call from the mayor. I issued an emergency certification that I signed as the administrator. They started immediately. And the hope is that you all will ratify that emergency certification tonight. And I can show you now the next photo. So you can see how it went. And so this was this morning. That previous picture was yesterday morning when they were putting the sandbags out. And you can see what happened to most of them. There's still some remaining in sort of the southern part of the stretch, but most of the rest of them kind of succumbed to the storm. The road, as you can see, was heavily damaged and broken up even further than it was before. And that all that sand is just in Reservation Terrace. So it did help. It's hard to imagine what would have happened if those bags hadn't been placed there. But now, you know, we do have to figure out what to do again before any next storm and what's going on with the road. I'm not sure. I haven't talked with DPS about this since early this morning, and they were just out there trying to do damage control. So that's the situation.
So I have a concern. I have a concern now about all that plastic. What's going to happen with that? Because that's not good for the environment out there.
Yep, that's a great question. All right, we can address that with DPS and the mayor's office.
Okay.
I assume it's not fraying and washing off in pieces. I assume it's just deflated and buried at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It is absolutely just, did I just switch the screen? Can you guys see the agenda now, or do you still see the photo?
You'll see the bags.
Okay, great. Yeah, so far they've stayed intact. They've just sort of been emptied and pushed around and sort of like covered, buried a little bit, as you can see in the pictures, but they have not shredded that I've noticed or that I've heard of, which is good.
And on the comment about the no stone, that was as a temporary solution, or was that no stone ever kind of position?
That was,
or
yeah, that was no stone ever kind of, because I think the only way they might have ever even considered allowing it would have been for an emergency such as this, or an emergency or a temporary situation, and they wouldn't allow it even for that. So they certainly won't allow it as a permanent solution.
as a new member to the committee, is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with just coastal geology and coastal dynamics, and the way when you put a wall or a hard structure on a dune that's getting any kind of wave activity, what you end up doing is you actually end up undermining the beach and dune worse than where you started. So it ends up pulling, it creates a different sort of a physical dynamic. It ends up pulling sand out from underneath and around the sides of that, whatever that hard structure is. They've been used over time, and you'll see seawalls and you'll see revetments all over the place in coastal areas, but they typically don't allow new ones unless, absolutely necessary, especially on a dune. Because it's like saying goodbye to your dune and your beach.
Yeah, the beach out in front of the stone on Newbury is essentially non-existent. It's always gone at high tide, and that's basically what happens is, and the rock piles just collapse too, and they got to keep repositioning them.
Right.
So it really makes a mess, and it works just like the concrete blocks you can see there. Stuff just gets undermined and makes matters worse.
I can't imagine they see the dredging as the answer. There's no reason why they pump 60,000 yards of sand there and it's not gone in a year or less.
Well, that's possible too, but I think they may slowly be coming to the conclusion that they need a weir jetty, because all this sand built up after the storm of 78, when it knocked out a bunch of the stones of the jetty, the south jetty, and it essentially became a weir jetty. And when you have really bad wave action, generally what happens is if you have a weir jetty, the waves go up and over the weir and mess up the waves coming down the mouth of the river. So you don't, because if you've seen aerial photos of waves coming down the two jetties, they're like straight line waves coming in, and then they just wrap around the ends of the jetty and wrap around and come right up here. So
that is a concern, Ron, that any sand that they put out there, the same thing will happen to it. And so one of the things that they need to do is they need to look really carefully at that study that was just put out by DCR on the sediment transport study, so they can see exactly what will happen to that sand once they put it there, and make sure that they're not doing something that doesn't make sense. And like Joe said, if that means putting a weir in the jetty to ensure that the sand stays put, then that's what we're going to have to pressure them to do.
Well,
Yeah.
Did the state, in their commitment to do something through the winter, are they going to be continuously out there putting more of these super sacks out there?
That's such a good question, Steve. I don't know. I mean, I think that on Friday, that was their stance, was here's what we'll do. We'll commit to sand. We'll commit to sandbags and sand, and that's it. And we'll try to maintain it as long as we can. Now that this is all gone, I don't know if that means they're going to come out again next week and just put more sandbags out there. I have no idea. The road is now damaged. I don't know if that's going to be something that the state helps us with as well. I think it's questions that we need to still get answers to. They're good questions.
yeah, well, apparently this Sunday they're talking about possibly another nor'easter coming in. So
The ones that were put in yesterday, were those the state handled all of that?
Yes, so DCR was the applicant for the emergency certification, DCR and jointly the city of Newburyport, but they paid for it. They immobilized. They already had a contract with, I think it's SLS or I can't remember the exact name of the contractor, who was already in Salisbury doing work. They brought them over to fill up the sandbags and get them out there. So we didn't have to pay for that work, which was great.
Where did the sand come from?
That's a good question. I'm not sure where the sand itself came from. Maybe they had a source already through that
Oh.
contractor in Salisbury.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to resume the share. So can you all see this emergency certification form now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what was issued yesterday with my signature on an electronic signature form, but I would just reissue this same, they've done the work, it's all done. But technically speaking, it should be ratified by the commission at the next commission meeting, which is tonight. So if you all could take a vote to ratify this emergency cert, then we'll just sort of cross the Ts and dot the Is.
So
Just
I
one
see that
quick
the end date
question,
is March
um,
1st. So does that mean if they go out there again, let's say this week or next week to put more sandbags out, we don't need to do this again? They're covered?
Exactly. Yep, they can put us, and I was very specific. I said, I think placement of super sack sand filled bags and additional sand nourishment as necessary. So they can continue to go out there and take care and add more sand until March 1st.
David, you have a question?
It was the same thing. It was the same question about whether we were going to be.
Uh-oh. David froze.
David froze.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
He's back.
Okay.
So it's just through March 1st. It's not, if it goes beyond that.
Goes beyond that, we need to, I think you can do an extension of an emergency certification. We've done that in the past, but either that or just issue a new one.
Okay.
Okay. Get a motion?
Make a motion to,
ratify this emergency, sir.
Second,
All right, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
yes,
I vote yes. Ron, just talk over him next time.
that's right. I do have a question on the dredging. Is that a project that comes before the commission at some point?
Yeah, I think we've seen it before.
It
Yeah.
depends on what they do, because
Yeah.
last time it did, because they thought they were going to be traversing the beach to get down to Newbury. And they ended up just piping it down. So
Mhm.
we ended up not having to approve anything. I assume this time they would just pipe it onto the beach.
Yeah. I believe that the case is because it's Army Corps of Engineers, they're exempt from local permitting. I don't think they need an order of conditions to do the actual dredging itself and to take the sand and place it out in their near shore disposal areas that they have already, established. But to put it on the beach, which is the proposal that they were trying to get approval for, and hopefully will happen, that will require local permitting through Concom and all the other associated parts. So, and DCR would be the one permitting that. They'd be the applicant. Yeah, that we'll have that probably, hopefully this summer. Good.
Yep. All right. You all set with Plum Island updates and such? All right, next item is the Marlene Schrader Nature Trail proposed bog bridge. Jerry Mullins.
Okay, let's see if Jerry's here. Yes.
Yes.
Promoting you to a panelist, Jerry. So give yourself a second and then you'll be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm all set.
Okay, great. So do you want to just, at the last meeting, we talked about the bridge that was created across the small depression at the end of Colby Farm Lane. And let me just see if I can find the photos of that. Well, in any case, hold on. All right, can you see this?
Yep, we can see it.
So I don't, all right. So it was determined that that bridge was not, the bridge that was created was not safe and was actually impacting also the stream bed. And so it needed to be rebuilt. And so you suggested a bog bridge. Can you all see this?
Yeah, that's not.
But this isn't what you wanted, right?
No, I was just, I thought you were gonna pull up the picture you took of that area, but,
I know, I can't find it right now.
okay.
So Joe and Steve, do you want to comment on what your comments were about this?
Yeah, my thoughts are there are 6 boards, 6 full-length boards
Right.
going over the bridge, or going over that depression now. And my thought was to do a double wide and use the 2 extra ones as added support underneath. You know, like to connect to the 2 of them. You know, to strengthen the bridge itself, because I think it's going to be pretty bouncy otherwise.
That's correct.
So, and then there's other extra wood that can go as cross pieces too. And if you have a couple of decent sized logs, you can attach those to that. I would also prefer that screws be used to hold the underside supports,
All right.
not nails. So
Okay.
they don't work their way out and have to be pounded back down.
This is the bridge we're talking about.
Right,
Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
Right.
Minutes. There it is.
And you can see how that's sagging.
Hmm.
Mhm. That's what we need to get rid of.
Right.
Okay.
So Julie, if we could go back to that initial drawing you had up there that showed a bog bridge, and maybe that was Jerry's screen, I don't know.
Yep. No, I got it. Hold on a sec. This one.
Yeah. So that is what I mean, I'm not opposed to what we just talked about, but this is what I think of as a typical bog bridge. It's actually logs cut in half.
But they also,
attached to those sleepers.
but lower down, it also says that we can have full logs. And I had a question. Joe had submitted a drawing with the boards across with that extra support underneath. And I don't know if you have that drawing at all.
Let me see if I can bring that one up.
That was really excellent.
Yeah. You know what? I tried to get that to load into Zoom earlier, and I couldn't copy it from Joe's email. So I apologize. I don't have that to bring up. But Jerry, do you have that? Maybe you and Joe can explain to the rest of the commissioners what that looked like.
Well, basically what it is I have 2 full logs on either end. And then in the middle, we'll have those long 12-foot lengths butted up against, and then underneath will be an extra board that'll help brace it. Plus there's 2 smaller boards that could be put right about where the logs are to keep it firm. So the whole purpose is to stop the bounciness. And I had a question about that, Joe. Do I need to cut into the log perhaps to make a little inset so that a board could fit in there?
I would think that would be better to have it on a flat surface and then
Okay.
just you know, screw it down, or that spot's probably okay for a nail on the you know, the cross logs there. It's probably okay for nails, because that spot's probably not going to be, well, I don't know, maybe it will bounce a bit.
I have no power putting the
I
screws
wish I
in.
could share that picture with you. It's
It
pretty
was
simple.
excellent. It was.
So basically, just think of this with this bridge. Take those 2 left planks and attach them to the underneath of the, you know, the two left ones would go underneath the and in between the
Mhm.
the two ones to the wait a minute, to the right. And they would just add extra structure underneath to minimize bouncing.
Thought it looked good.
I'm gonna forward this to the rest of the commission, and if you can bring it up on your email, so be it. But I don't know what size logs you have, Jerry.
I sent a picture of some of the leftover logs. I don't know if you have that, Julia, that were left over from the Boy Scouts project, and they're massive. So I'm going to be hauling them over the hill and back down to here so we can use them.
So Jerry, the picture that's up here, those are the boards you're planning on reusing, correct?
That's correct.
So those are, so that the bridge that's there is actually 24 feet. then,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Right.
going to be half that length and hopefully less bouncy.
No, it'll be the full length, but there'll be those two right ones will be put underneath to make it firm so it won't bounce.
Or bounce less.
Yeah, or bounce less.
Okay, so it's still going to be 24 feet long.
Right.
So what's going to be in the middle that's not in the stream, tying those together?
Those two extra boards to make it firm.
Yeah, the two boards on the right, the whole, the two lengthwise boards there on the right will
Right.
just get screwed to the bottom of the pair of other ones as extra.
So there's not going to be any support to the ground in the middle.
Right. It'll be open for the stream.
That's the idea. I
Yeah,
guess
I
we'll
see-
see.
You
I
would
see
need,
that still being pretty bouncy.
yeah, and you definitely would need pretty
Oh.
strong screws rather than nails for that to hold.
Definitely.
Oh,
Excellent.
it's worth a try.
Yeah, otherwise
Okay,
you'll need
I'm
longer
thinking,
boards.
well, would 12 feet, a 12-foot bog bridge accomplish what we need? I mean, I just think a 24-foot span, even though you've got something underneath, is still going to be pretty bouncy.
Oh,
That-
you may be right, Steve. And
And that was my original drawing I submitted. That would be a shorter length.
If I can go back to that
yeah, let's see that.
here. That was here.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing it as 24 feet. Thought it was shorter than that.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
one,
no, that-
12 feet. But
Yes,
then
yeah.
what worried me was that you've got these supports down at the bottom at the base of the stream. So that's really essentially, if there's more flow down there, that's really the topography, then they're going to be in the stream bed.
Well, I can make
Yeah,
sure
and-
they're up on the bank. It's
And-
a pretty steep depression there, so
Like, I can safely say from experience, if it's really flowing there, it doesn't matter what kind of bog bridge is there. It's probably gonna take it out. If we get another Mother's Day storm sort of thing, that's definitely not gonna stay. But that is that's kind of a flow by, the main culvert and everything is further to the left on that path.
mhm.
And or right, I don't know which way we're looking here, but there is actually a culvert that the stream normally goes through. And when there's really heavy flow, it goes over the path there, and then it also goes over the path here pretty strongly, shall we say.
So I think we need to go out there with a measuring tape. And I mean, we can sit here and try and engineer it, but
Yeah,
um,
maybe Joe and Steve, you want to meet Jerry out there and kind of work through these
Yeah.
details?
sure. I think even with the snow, we could probably take a look at it and come up with something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a great.
All right, well, the three of us will organize that.
Okay.
Great.
I'm available the rest of the week.
Okay.
I'm sure I can find time to. All right, we'll contact each other.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to Kevin J. Legacy, trustee, Basin Realty Trust, 14 Gloria Street. Request
Okay.
for certificate of compliance.
All right, I'm going to promote Tom Hughes if he's here to a panelist so he can present this request for certificate of compliance. All right.
Okay. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, when you promote me to a panelist, it logs me out for a second. So
Yeah.
it's for the pause. All right, you may remember 14 Gloria. We came in, there was an old open filing for the building of the house, and you guys did a site visit, and we basically closed out the old permit, permitted some remedies for some issues, and also a new shed. And so all that work has been done. You can see the shed in that photo. I can either share it, or Julia, if you can just kind of see if you
Yep.
can on those photos a little bit.
Yep.
Now these photos, the vegetation looks a little less impressive just because of the time of year these were taken, but we visited the site with Julia over the summer, and the vegetation really looks great. So on the shed, I think among the minor deviations that Everett called out in his letter, the stairs are a little bit longer, but that's because the shed's a little bit higher up in the air. So I think it's a little bit of a win-win for that. You can see we certainly have our 2 feet of clearance under that shed. You can see the vegetation is growing in and around that shed really nicely. And then you can see the spiral staircases in. The area where the footpath was shown going to the spiral stairs has vegetation coming into it, which again, so there's more vegetation than we actually said we would be planting. Everett did note that there's a small platform under the grill down there on the bottom, but it's just to keep the grill from sinking into the sand. It's nothing like the network of on-ground platforms that were there when we first visited the site. And you can see the vegetation is growing, beautifully all around there and right up to the street. So the site looks great. When we did do the site visit, the applicant had put some insect screen behind that lattice because critters were getting in underneath. That's been removed, and we talked to Julia about putting something that's sort of 99% open, like some chicken wire in there that would still keep the critters out, but not be as much of a block as the insect screen. Now he hasn't put that in yet, but if the commission's okay with that, he will be putting, just normal chicken wire, hexagonal.
But he did take out the screen that was there, right?
Yes, that was
Yeah.
taken out right after that site
Yeah,
visit.
right. That's what I thought.
Problem. Yeah, he definitely wants to do things right. It's the one thing on Plum Island, these homes that only have a couple feet of clearance underneath them are very welcoming for raccoons and other critters because there's not a lot of shelter out there.
Mhm.
And I guess he had problems years ago with raccoons getting under and getting up into the insulation, and other neighbors on Plum Island. I've heard this sort of the same story from other folks. So I totally understand why he wanted to do it. But
Tom, do you think they would have that problem if there was no lattice at all? So it provided these animals no protection. If it was wide open, would they even bother to try to go under there and do that?
Yeah, it's still so low to the ground, which is why there's shelter. I think it's the fact that it's only got a couple feet of clearance, and then you've got all the insulation that's exposed underneath these buildings that they can kind of dig their way up into. Raccoons will get into like a stored boat and and make a home and a cushion. You know, they'll do anything where they can get shelter. So I think, you know, it's just another thing that I tell clients when they're trying to decide whether they should go low or go high with a new building design. I'm always recommending that, you know, you go up in the air and park underneath. You know, not only do you get more freeboard, but you don't end up with those issues. But anyhow, so this, you know, I think everything's done, you know, really consistently with everything we agreed with during the permitting process. I think it looks great, and it's certainly an improvement over what the commission saw when we did the site visit during the permitting part.
Okay, we have any questions? Senator Sanders have any comments?
Oh, he's too busy
Okay,
sitting out at the Evergreen Field.
Is motion to issue the certificate of compliance?
Second,
Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Ken Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
yes.
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks.
You too. All right, next item is 229 Northern Boulevard Realty Trust, Rob Champetti. Amendment to determination, to the determination of applicability.
Rob, I'm promoting you to a panelist. You're gonna blank out for a minute and then you'll be with us over here.
Hello, members of the commission, Chairman Texiera, and members, good evening. You may recall this was about, again, my name is Rob Champetti. I'm the trustee and the owner. My wife and I own this cottage. You may recall, I was before you at the hearing, or the hearing on, I believe it was January 5th, on the notice of determination of applicability. And if the members of the commission may recall, that was an application to remove approximately 1,800 square feet of lawn area and approximately 900 square feet of asphalt, all of which was non-indigenous, and replace the lawn area to the left or the southerly side of the home with indigenous sand, and then plant indigenous Camelophylla bravila gallata in the sand at approximately 12 to 18 inch spacing interval. We also proposed rounded stone in place of the asphalt, and as you may recall, a retaining granite cobble as well to sort of finish off the space. The commission was kind enough. This application was met with the commission's approval. I'm back before you with a request for a minor modification or an amendment, and basically what we're seeking to do this evening, having already begun that process, it occurred to me that what remained on the site was also a non-indigenous poured concrete single unit from probably Shays Concrete of a front stair, essentially the kind of front concrete poured stair that's installed, lifted in by truck crane and popped into place. This was here when we purchased the property, so it was certainly pre-existing, but my goal is to remove that and in its place build a sort of a timber stair, pressure treated decking stair up to that front door. And what I'd like to do as well, and I'm hoping that this is something that would meet with the commission's approval, is to extend the left side or the southerly side of that landing with what I hope you'll agree is a modest landing or deck extension, so that I can put two chairs and enjoy all the sand and dune grass and other things that we now have. We have no outdoor space on the front. And as we were investigating this concrete stair and its removal to kind of really complete the natural material, restoring this site back to a more indigenous and soft scaped, Plum Island dune resource appropriate scaping, we were able to confirm that there are footings underneath of this concrete stair. So the impact I would hope would be minimal. We would essentially do a diamond pier, two diamond piers, one in the corner and then one mid-span. And we would be able to lag onto the side of the house and borrow upon the PT framing of the entry stairs. So essentially, that's the meat and potatoes of it. Nothing else has changed. You can see in this photo that Julia has up, we've found all sorts of treasures in the form of concrete blocks of various shapes, sizes, and dimensions buried underneath. I dare not dig any deeper, for fear of what I might find, but we're removing it all and disposing of it all properly. My wife and I are very excited about what will be the result, which I'm certain will be something more appropriate to a cottage in a resource area such as Plum Island. So essentially, that's what I'm before the commission this evening on is that amendment, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions, and I hope that this meets with your approval.
Okay, so the outline of those boards on the ground, that is where the size of the deck you want to add,
That's correct, Mr. Moore.
and that would be elevated at least 2 feet off the ground.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, it's going to be 3 feet off the ground. When we did the measure of where the floor joists are that'll have to be lagged into, it becomes it's 36 inches above grade.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, and this is something I want to pose to the commission, if it's possible, while still staying at least 2 feet off, I'd love to try to skirt open lattice, still allowing for the contemplated, though hopefully not here, the wind, wave, and water action that's contemplated in a dune resource area. I'm hoping I don't see any wind, wave, or water action here, but to just create a little bit of a screen, because the dune grass will cover the rest. And I'm probably going to go a little maybe closer in interval planting of the camelophilia along the front, just because I want it to have sort of a natural scape.
So I'm sure you heard the discussion from the previous whatever thing we were talking about the lattice work and critters getting underneath it and making a home. So you may not want to do that. And perhaps if you, to soften the effect, if you planted some native shrubs like bayberry or beach plum to kind of cover that opening, you might be better off in the long run.
I think, and you're probably correct, Mr. Moore. I think as we sort of formulate, of course, that is, in the hopeful assumption that if it's met with this commission's approval, as we start to formulate this on site, we may well find that, the elevation will dictate sort of the best approach. And I think the commission is hopefully confident in kind of where the spirit of this is headed, and my intent and what I'm trying to do here is to certainly not do anything that would degrade from that end result, and to be contradictory to the idea of keeping this open and appropriate, under the circumstances.
Yeah, so Rob, if you were going to do some skirting around the, underneath of the deck platform there, and you were going to stay at least 2 feet above grade with it, it would end up sort of just being like a trim around the top part of, and then if you had plants below that, you could sort of make it work. But I would suggest that as long as it doesn't go down below 2 feet above grade, you could kind of play that by ear and how you want to do it.
I agree, and thank you, Julia. If it is acceptable to the commission, I would love to have the flexibility of doing that, but no more than that. And it would essentially be, it would be a trim. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to call it a skirting, because it's really not going to come, it couldn't mathematically come any more than 12 inches below the bottom of the PT framing. But it will be met with a majority of the screening from the dune grass and perhaps other, other ornamental but indigenous grasses that we would find are, nicely placed there. At the end of the day, it's going to be open by and large. So I'm hopeful that the sort of the critter problem is hopefully nothing that, is going to be attractive here.
Okay.
So when we did the RDA, that was a -2, right? Which meant no conditions. I guess the only thing, with this addition, it's a little bit more work, and I just would like to have a final inspection to make sure it's okay, which normally,
Sure. Would you want to put a special condition on it and make it a -3?
yeah.
What would that be that we could say any skirting, lattice or other framing should not come down below 2 feet above grade and shall require a site inspection by the administrator post-construction?
Yeah,
Yeah, require approval by you.
If I elect to, if I find that skirting is not even, workable or doesn't seem desirable, would that still necessitate it? And certainly I'm happy to have Ms. Gottfredson come out. I just don't want to overly tax, an inspection if we end up not doing it, but I will leave that to the commission and to the administrator.
Yeah, and Rob, you could even just send me a photo at that point
Okay. Happy to do it.
of what you've come up with in the end.
Absolutely.
Okay.
How about we just say in the special condition that a photo to be provided to the administrator?
that's fine.
So are we going to be adding or creating a new determination of applicability?
Yeah, essentially, it's just going to be a reissuance of the same one, but with, in this case, the modification is the attached revised plan showing these details. And it would be a -3 instead of a -2 and a new signature. It just wasn't necessary to have him resubmit an entirely new determination since this was just an add-on to the existing application.
Sounds fine.
All right.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for a -3 determination with the special condition that we discussed.
Second that?
Okay. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes,
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
and members of the commission, thanks very much for your time. Julia, thank you. And stay well, stay safe, everybody.
Two.
Good job.
right.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Can I get a motion to open the public hearings?
So moved?
Second,
Second.
All right, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
I vote yes. I really would like to just do a voice vote.
Well, I'm sorry, I was promoting everyone to panelists. What did you say, Joe?
I really would like to be able to do voice votes like the city council does.
Oh, yes, you can do that if you want. That's fine.
Okay, well, then we're gonna start doing that.
Okay.
All right, first item is City of Newburyport, Upper Artichoke Reservoir Bridge, notice of intent.
Okay.
Evening, Commissioners.
Yep. Are you there, Sarah?
I am. Hi.
Hi.
So Julie, if I could ask you to share the PDF that we sent earlier.
Oh, am I not sharing?
I see the,
Do you see it? It should say Newburyport Conservation Commission BSC
I
group.
see it now. It disappeared. I got
Oh,
it.
okay. Got it.
Change of screens when it
Yeah.
when videos come on. Got it. Oops. Let me just rearrange these things so I have everything accessible.
Feel free to just tell me which page you want to go to.
Exactly. I'll let you know when I'm ready for the next one. So
Okay.
if you don't mind, we'll begin. Good evening, Commissioners. My
Right,
name
can
is
I make
Sarah
one comment
Kreisel.
Before we get into this,
Oh, go ahead.
since this involves both Newburyport and West Newbury, if we issue one order of conditions and they issue an order of conditions and they conflict, how do we resolve that? And would it be worthwhile having a joint meeting?
One thing I was going to propose at the end of this. So thank you for preempting. Yeah, I'll certainly get into that. And I'm sure that's something that the other commission would be amenable to as well. I can't speak for them, of course, but agree that that would probably be helpful for this project.
Okay.
Again, my name is Sarah Kreisel. I'm here from the BSC group representing the applicant, the city of Newburyport. I served as ecological project manager for the project. I'm here with Micah Morrison, engineering and overall project manager, as well as representatives from the town of West Newbury and the city of Newburyport. Julia, if I could ask you to hit the next slide. The project straddles the municipal line with West Newbury, and an NOI has been submitted separately for the work proposed in the town of West Newbury. The proposed project is for the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge crossing of Plummer Spring Road over the Upper Artichoke Reservoir, which was closed in 2018 to vehicular traffic due to undermining of the paved roadway foundation. West Newbury has secured $1 million MassWorks infrastructure grant for the design and construction of the replacement. Newburyport has secured a $500,000 MassDOT small bridge grant for the design and construction of the replacement. The NOI before the commission tonight has been filed for impacts to bank, land under water bodies and waterways, bordering land subject to flooding, the 200-foot riverfront area, and the 100-foot buffer zone to bank within the city of Newburyport as a result of the proposed work. Next slide, please. The roadway and bridge were originally constructed over the Artichoke River in 1891. The area was later dammed up and became the Artichoke Reservoir as it exists today. The bridge crossing itself straddles the municipal line between Middle Street, West Newbury, and Plummer Spring Road, Newburyport. The project occurs 0.4 miles west of the intersection with Turkey Hill Road, Newburyport, on an existing paved road, which is classified as a rural local road. The nearest house is more than 750 feet away. While the roadway is flat, removal of some small trees along the slopes down to the reservoir will be necessary for access and construction. Next slide, please. The existing structure is a single span earth-filled stone arch and is approximately 14.3 feet wide, 13.2 feet high, and 24.2 feet long. Portions of the bridge, stone head wall, and southeast approach roadway have collapsed, and the paved roadway foundation is undermined. The Upper Artichoke Reservoir flows northerly in an open water area and is bounded by protected forested lands. While bankful width for the Artichoke River is 28.4 feet, as reported by StreamStats, the reservoir itself is much wider. The minimum width for stream crossing standards is 34 feet, but the proposed new clear span is 41.5 feet. The stream bed near the crossing is characterized by sand and cobbles with trace amounts of silt and gravel. The crossing is located within Zone AE for the 100-year storm event at and below the 13-foot base flood elevation. The Artichoke Reservoir is a Class A public water supply, an outstanding resource water. There is no rare species habitat in the project area, and neither the Upper Artichoke Reservoir nor the river are EPA impaired waterways nor cold water fisheries. Next slide, please. The proposed project is characterized as a redevelopment project, but will preserve undisturbed areas adjacent to the crossing to the maximum extent practicable. The proposed project design complies with the Massachusetts stream crossing standards as required for a limited project under the Wetlands Protection Act. The crossing is proposed to be replaced by a precast concrete structure that will follow a similar horizontal and vertical alignment as the existing bridge that will continue to have an open bottom with natural stream bed material. The proposed span length will increase from 14 feet to 45 feet. The overall width of the bridge will be 32.5 feet to accommodate safety improvements, including a sidewalk. Next slide, please. In accordance with the MassDOT Bridge Manual for a rural local road, the proposed bridge has been designed to meet the 10-year flood frequency storm event, can accommodate the 100-year flood frequency storm event, and increases the hydraulic opening by a factor of 2 compared to the existing conditions. Additionally, while the low chord of the bridge will stay the same, the proposed roadway elevation will be 1.5 feet higher, which will help mitigate possible roadway flooding. The proposed bridge will have a slightly larger footprint than the existing bridge, which will improve the openness and span size over the reservoir, which in turn will provide environmental benefits such as improved wildlife passage and connectivity, and the increased hydraulic opening will better facilitate reservoir maintenance. Next slide, please. Approximately 630 square feet of temporary and permanent impacts to land underwater are anticipated in Newburyport as a result of the bridge removal, construction of the new wing walls, abutments, and retaining walls, and the riprap placement to protect the bridge. Additionally, a gain of 449 square feet of land underwater is proposed for the design openness. Approximately 70 linear feet of temporary and permanent impacts to bank are anticipated in Newburyport from the bridge removal, placement of riprap and retaining walls, and reconstruction of the bank. All temporarily impacted areas will be reseeded with an appropriate seed mix. Less than 50 square feet of alteration to bordering land subject to flooding is anticipated in Newburyport from the bridge removal and placement of riprap and retaining walls, but the design proposes 344 square feet of floodplain replacement, which will increase overall storage capacity. Total amount of riverfront area in the Newburyport project area is about 6,300 square feet. A majority of impacts to riverfront area will occur in previously degraded areas, around 2,700 square feet. New impacts to riverfront area are required to ensure the stability of the new bridge structure and prevent degradation of the newly improved site. Specifically, new riverfront area impacts will occur as a result of new scour protection for the bridge footings and abutments, retaining walls, roadway expansion for the sidewalk, and new roadway erosion improvements such as guardrails. The additional area is approximately 1,200 square feet. Additional temporary impacts of 550 square feet of riverfront area are required for construction. And again, all temporarily impacted areas will be restored to pre-construction conditions with loam and seeding. No BVW impacts will occur as a result of this project, as there are no BVWs in the project vicinity. Erosion sedimentation controls will be installed prior to construction to protect the waterway and will be removed upon completion of the project once the site is stabilized. Work will likely occur behind cofferdams so that the work can occur in the dry, but the exact methodology is up to the contractor. The project area currently exhibits country drainage and has site limitations as to what else may be implemented. As a redevelopment project, the proposed design meets stormwater standards to the maximum extent practicable as designed. Some runoff will be captured via 2 deep sump catch basins at the low points in the roadway, which occur in West Newbury and flow to a manhole. Like the existing conditions, all other runoff within the project limits will continue to flow via country drainage. We'd like to advise the Commission that the city is currently looking at an improved water quality unit to be integrated into the existing design in combination with the proposed deep sump catch basins to increase treatment of the roadway runoff. Again, since the existing low point of the project occurs within the town of West Newbury, the proposed deep sumps are similarly proposed within that town. As a result, West Newbury will have to also approve any final design within their right-of-way limits. Additionally, there may be a small unit integrated into the design on the city of Newburyport side. We have a site walk with the town of West Newbury scheduled for this coming Sunday. We'd like to invite the City Commission to join us, and then we can discuss the proposed plans for stormwater treatment further. Lastly, the applicant is also requesting a waiver from the Newburyport Wetlands Protection Ordinance for work within the 25-foot no disturbance zone and the 100-foot buffer zone. Due to the nature of this publicly funded and supported project, it is infeasible to move work outside of these locations. Impacts to wetland resource areas were mitigated to the extent practicable, and various alternatives were evaluated in choosing the final design. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions from the Commission.
In reading the request for the variance, you looked at various and sundry things. And one of the options was doing nothing. And I haven't been out there in a long time. And I'm just wondering, how much traffic is there along here that we really need a bridge?
We did take traffic counts before the bridge was closed. This has been an ongoing process before we obtained the grants, and there was over 900 vehicles a day.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good cut through, bypass.
Yeah.
I know I've traveled it quite a lot.
Okay, I had no idea it was that much, because when I've been out there, well, maybe it was on weekends and there's not as much traffic. There didn't seem to be that much, but okay, 900 cars a day, I guess we need a bridge.
You had mentioned about the contractor being responsible for the method of dewatering, but generally you have some idea as far as how this is going to go forward. Could you explain it a little bit more? I couldn't really pick up much from the plans.
Sure. If we could scroll down, let's see.
Is this the one? No.
That
Okay.
is one. Yep.
This it?
Yep.
Sort of all together. It's in order
Okay.
of the design. Yeah.
You want me to start with this one or go straight to the dewatering?
Why don't we start with the first one? I can kind of, if the commission would like, I can kind of go through the anticipated construction.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
So again, the selected contractor would be proposing a demolition plan. At my previous job, I was involved heavily in construction. So what we envisioned would happen is there would be an item for shielding. So we envision that they drive approximately 4 H piles. They'd have a beam that runs between it underneath the bridge. They could slide steel plates on top of that, push it underneath, so that would shield it so the debris from the demolition does not fall into the reservoir. So that would capture it. You'd remove the crown of the arch. After that, you'd be able to drive sheeting to encapsulate the area. If we could go to the next slide. So this is what we have proposed for the limits of sheeting. So the water would continue to flow through the channel at all times during construction. That would be brace sheeting just so they wouldn't have to drive it as deep. And then the whole area would be, you can see that it extends for a considerable distance. That's so that the existing bridge could be removed in the dry. We show 2 filter basins or filter bags. We show them in this location here just to keep it on the drawings. The commission can determine where they are located. It'd probably be a conversation or a site walk with the contractor to make sure the selected location is approved by the commission. So those filter bags would filter out the water behind the cofferdams. And then, so this would be for the removal of the existing bridge. If we could go to the next slide.
Sorry, this one?
Yep, so this is when they are driving piles for the actual bridge itself. This would be an integral abutment bridge. When I say integral abutment, it eliminates joints. So the thermal movement of the bridge is the piles flex to accommodate the thermal movement. That's what MassDOT is really pushing nowadays. Joints and water leakage destroys a number of bridges. So this would be for the foundation that's being put in. Next stage, this would get them out of the water after this stage is completed. If we go to the next one. And then they would be putting in the precast box beams at this stage. And so at this point, they would be out of the water for the bridge. And then in on the next one, this kind of shows everything in elevation. It may help explain what I was talking about. So you can see in the first one in the upper left-hand corner, that's when they're putting in the shielding. They removed the top arch, so then they were able to drive the sheet piles. So then they de-water because the water is still flowing through the channel. They're able to construct the substructure of the bridge. They remove the control the water, the sheet piles, and then they were able to build the rest of the bridge.
So are those dark lines, is that the riprap coming down from the abutments?
That is correct, yes.
And that would be in the dry as well?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
And then, of course, covered with natural stream bottom material.
And the water would go into these basins, and as far as removing them from the basin, you have that worked out as far as turbidity and so forth?
So if they do use, the commercial name for them is dirt bags. They look like hot water bottles. The water flows in and it filters out the sediment, the clean water flows out. When they get too filled up with sediment, the way you can tell that they're no longer functioning as intended, they get larger. So that's the time that they have to remove them from the site and replace them.
Okay, so it's actually replaced.
If I can add a comment, can you hear me?
Yep.
We use the dirt bags down at the waterfront when we're putting in the culvert for the L house to go around the L house. They work quite well. It's all a function of sizing it properly and making sure that we stay on top of the contractor to, have enough of them. So when the sediment load gets too much, that he has enough of them.
Okay.
Any concern about the existing roadway for the construction? I mean, there's going to be a certain portion of this that's going to be going over the existing roadway.
So generally, the existing roadway would be a concern for the use of a crane. So you have the outriggers for the crane, so that's the width. So all these roads are very narrow. So they would have to, the reason we chose this bridge in particular is because the beams are lighter. We were looking at precast arches. We went through 7 different options of bridge. And one of the reasons we chose the box beams is because the units are lighter. They can be picked up with a smaller crane that doesn't have as large outriggers. The road is narrow. So what we're going to be doing is at the bridge, it'll be a 24-foot wide road with a 5.5-foot sidewalk. So that's at the bridge, and then it's going to be tapering back as fairly quickly to meet existing on both sides.
And I assume that you, as part of this, all the roadways that lead to this are going to be, I guess my concern is that all the roads there are pretty old.
Yes.
Lack of a better word. As far as any damage to those roads and so forth from construction vehicles, you have limits on all of that?
So as far as any damage that's done by the contractor, there is notes in the special revisions that it would have to be, any damage outside of the project limits would have to be repaired by the contractor at no cost.
Okay.
So did I hear your comment right that it's going to be tapering back to the width of the roadways? So this is essentially a 2-lane bridge?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So when I have been out there, I've seen people fishing off of both sides of the bridge. And we're putting a sidewalk on one side, which I assume people will fish off of. But I'm sure people will still fish off the other side. Is it possible to put a sidewalk on that side or some sort of safety thing?
We did look into that option. There was, let's see, there was a public meeting held on it. So we did present 7 options. Having sidewalks on both sides was presented. There was a lot of debate back and forth about no sidewalks, 1 sidewalk, 2 sidewalks. So the option that was chosen during that meeting was to have 1 sidewalk. On the other side, it is getting wider, so there will be a 2-foot shoulder and a safety curb. But I don't believe people are supposed to fish out there, but I do know that people, it doesn't matter, they do fish out there.
Okay, because the existing bridge, when people were fishing off both sides, it was hard to get through there.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe some concertina wire on the other side? No, that'll be a nice setup compared to what was there. certainly what is there.
You all want to have a site visit? We can join in on the site visit that they've got scheduled already this Sunday with the West Newbury Concom.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go out there. If it doesn't interfere with the Super Bowl.
It's currently scheduled for 9 a.m. So
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
guessing that's not going to interfere.
Hopefully it'll be pre-storm. Since there may be a storm that day, but
So I've seen,
All right.
yeah.
so 9 a.m.
Sunday the 7th, yeah.
All right.
And can you drive down to the bridge from the Newburyport side, or do you have to walk?
You can drive down, there should be a pull off. If you're coming down, there's an area where you can park, and you can park right along it, so yeah.
Okay.
You would have to walk probably, probably like 100 feet.
Yeah. I know you don't like walking, Steve.
Yeah, I can probably manage that.
Yeah. All right, so Sunday the 7th. At
9
9.
a.m. I think that'd be helpful. Let's
Mhm.
go out and take a look at where they're gonna have staging, where they're gonna where we could have them put the dewatering bags, that kind of thing.
Okay.
If I
And
may,
also, we need to look at the stormwater issues, right?
yeah. If I may add to that, just to help out the commission. We're using the sidewalk to determine the limits of new berm that we want to put in. We want to capture more runoff from the roadway than exists now. Because right now there's country drainage that goes right off the road over the riprap straight into the reservoir without any treatment. So I was working with BSC and I was trying to get them some information. I didn't get it to them in time, so we're going to add it. But so we're going to have a water quality unit that we're going to add. But on our side, we need 2 new CBs in the water quality unit on our side, because as Micah was explaining to me, as a typical bridge design, this bridge is on a sag, but the true low point is on the other side of the bridge in West Newbury. So you don't want to have any rainfall crossing a bridge, because you know how bridges get really cold. You don't want to cross the bridge. You want to pick it up first before you want to pick up the flow before it crosses the bridge. So those are the changes that are coming. So long story short, sorry for that. We need to locate the berm for the limits. It's all about the money. We want to save some money. We don't want to go all the way to halfway to Turkey Hill. We don't need to, but those are the things that we want to look at.
That's helpful. Thanks, John Eric, because we hadn't yet discussed the stormwater issues.
Yeah.
Just a quick question going back. How about stockpiling materials, excavated materials, bridge components and so forth? Is there a laydown area of some sort here?
Mike, I think I can handle that. Let me just add one thing, Mike, and then you can add your expertise about the materials that they'll have. There's like, what do we measure? 2,000 feet, you guys, to the closest home. There's like 2 homes on Plummer Spring, right at the intersection with Turkey Hill. So what we're going to do, Dave, is we're going to give the contractor the ability of using that entire 2,000 foot stretch. So what I envision is a very long staging area. All the aggregate we want to get as far away from, as close to Turkey Hill as we can. Because on both sides of the street, Dave, there's country drainage with a ditch. With a ditch that on the land side has 2 culvert crossings going from one side to the other. So, with those tubes or hay bales, probably the tubes, what better place than to stockpile so that by the time it gets into the reservoir, any sediment It's, you know, dozens and hundreds of feet to get into the reservoir. I hope that helps.
Could somebody
Yeah, I-
describe what country drainage is?
It's a simplified, it's a mass DOT term. That's all it is. Roadways either have no curbing or they have curbing. If they don't have curbing, it's called country drainage.
Okay.
That's it.
It just means there's no treatment whatsoever, right? I
It-
mean, just means
it
overland
runs
flow.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
runoff.
Well, you have to be careful with no treatment, Julia. It's like it'll run off. You could have a swale that provides treatment. You know what I mean, Julia?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Overland through a swale, whatever, but not engineered.
right. So she's exactly right. Most of the time, it's untreated. For this bridge, we want to put a berm so we capture some of it instead of going straight. It's only like a 10-foot horizontal distance between the reservoir and the edge of the road at the bridge. So this will help.
Yeah. Well, do we have anything else for now?
I have a speech on climate change.
Do we have anything else for now?
I'll mute myself, Joe.
Julia, can you mute him?
I want to hear his speech on climate change. I haven't heard it in a couple days.
Yeah,
so.
me too.
Back in 1895, someone realized that there was global warming. Once upon a time, no, only kidding. So I'm on the resiliency committee, and as part of the resiliency committee, we formed a subcommittee to determine the elevation of first floors for the Waterfront West project. Some of you may remember that. So right now, the first floor buildings are controlled by the FEMA 100-year flood. I'm simplifying this whole conversation, but this is essentially it in a nutshell. So the subcommittee tried to figure out what future sea level elevation should we force developers, contractors to build their project towards. What we concluded in the subcommittee was, if you guys remember, FEMA +6. So FEMA +6 feet. We applied that to this. I met with BSC, presented, went through the methodology of FEMA +6, very simplified version. The 6 feet is in the year 2100. Our subcommittee, we all put together the sea level rise height that we think will exist in the year 2100. And there was 5 of us, and we took the average. End up being 6. You guys have heard the models. Some models go up to 10. This particular location, we chose the simplified version because Woods Hole has not completed a thorough model of this area, and that's fine, you guys. We don't really need it. So if we look at FEMA +6, FEMA's 13 at this location. 13 + 6 is 19. The bottom of the bridge, the crown of the river down below, it's called the low chord. I never really liked that term but it's more like the ceiling of the bridge below where water passes. That's elevation 16.2. So what we have is 2.8 feet of sea level rise. That this is also the 100-year flood, FEMA +6. So we have 2.8 feet, 3.2 feet additional before the upstream even floods. What's the road elevation, Micah? It's
Around 19.6.
So essentially in the year 2100, FEMA +6 is 19. The roadway elevation's higher than that. We aren't required to pass the 100-year. So this bridge will survive as long as our estimate of 6 foot at year 2100 is accurate.
But we'll
So
have
it
a
will-
saltwater reservoir.
Yeah,
Well,
So, okay, so everything I just said is if we don't touch any of the dams that we have now. That said, the lower dam will be presented to the commission in the next couple of years. The lower dam needs to raise because it's 3 feet below FEMA right now. So we need to raise the lower dam. The spillway is 3 feet below the 100-year flood. We have Time Bond on board right now with the design, and they're putting together concepts. And essentially, we have to figure out as a community, how high do we go with protecting the reservoir? The short answer is there's gates that we can install in the spillway that we close the gate when the storm is coming, and we allow it, that'll keep the salt water out. There'll still be water from up, if it's an upstream inland storm, there'll still be water coming from there. But as far as, I believe you asked a question about salt water, keeping that out, we're going to eventually have to control it with a new system at the lower Artichoke. For now, the upper Artichoke Dam is 12.2. So that's just short of a 100-year storm today. So, we're looking pretty good because at a 100-year storm today, it'll breach the upper Artichoke spillway. But we have a temporary sandbag method going at the lower Artichoke that we're in front of the West Newbury Concom right now to get that permitted. So if we get hit with a 100-year storm this summer, the guys just have to dump a bunch of the equivalent of sandbags, probably the big ones, and we'll protect it that way. I know I gave you a lot, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, what about the other dam? That I forget the name of the street. It's right down next to the river.
Yeah, so Curzon Mill.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is, for now, for all intents and purposes, sea level rise, all that stuff, that's going to be inundated. What they do with that road is
right
out of our realm because that's a private dam. It's actually, it's a shared, come to find out, it's a 50-50 split between ownership, between the city and this private trust or the landowner. But all these discussions on the calculations in the proposals we have now, Steve, we are not touching that dam as of right now.
okay, because water flows upstream on that dam now on a high tide.
Correct. And without getting into too much detail, I would love to, because I like to speak. The lower dam is elevation 8.7. So we're lucky that even a 10-year storm, or definitely a 25-year storm, between a 10 and 25-year storm for the Merrimack, that's going to back into our system. So we're at a level of urgency to get that emergency sandbags system in place.
Yeah. There's still, in the lower Artichoke, there's a good amount of excess volume if that gets, if you have to put those sandbags in there for any period of time, right? Or even with a newer dam, there's still a lot of leeway in there for that.
There's going to be a lot of discussions on that, Joe, because the bottom line is historically DCR doesn't want anyone to raise the water level of a reservoir. Just from a general historical sense, I would challenge them and say, hey, this is climate change. We have sea level rise. We're one of the very few that are on the East Coast. Newport, Rhode Island had one, but in all of New England, I couldn't find one. And there's very, very few public surface water supplies up against the tide. There's, I'm sure, obviously there's probably plenty from the mid-Atlantic down to Miami. But DCR for our state, they've got to allow us to raise that dam. We'll be having that discussion. I don't see any way out of it.
No,
It's all climate change. It's not the old days of, it's not something that we want. We have to do it.
no, it's part of the resiliency committee job to get to strengthen such things, to fortify such things. So,
I would agree.
all right, we have anything else for this? For now?
So for now, we'll have the site visit at 9 a.m. on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 7th. And we can expect some modifications to the stormwater design with whatever this water quality unit being proposed might be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All
Sorry,
right,
Micah.
so should we send this to the next meeting?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
guys want to continue for 2 weeks, or do you think you need more time than that?
I think we're gonna need more time. Based on the site walk, we'll have to figure out how much effort it's gonna be. So that's, we
We
would
can do-
need more time.
We can do first meeting in March, whatever that date is.
That would be the 2nd.
Okay, does that work for you guys?
Yes.
All right, got a motion to continue?
motion to continue to March 2nd.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Commissioners.
all.
Thank you.
See you Sunday.
you.
Yep, see you Sunday.
Sunday.
All right, next item is Kim Goulet, 5 Helena Street, notice of intent.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, I've promoted Michael C. Camp and Kim Goulet to panelists, and they should be able to unmute themselves when they're ready to talk. And Michael, maybe you want to give a brief overview of this project?
Yeah, good evening. Michael Seecamp here, Seecamp Environmental Consulting. And I don't know if you recall, but last spring, before things kind of shut down, we were before the commission on an informal basis to show a concept plan. And what the original plan was to expand the bedroom and then add on some additional deck. Right now, the cottage has a deck going pretty much on 3 sides. And
Okay.
the, yeah, you can see there. So wanted to go out to the, basically to the, let's see, it would be to the north, pretty much. I'm sorry, to the east. And that would have brought it closer to the bordering wetland, which borders on a mud flat, basically. This is on the basin side. And so we were advised that, no, we can't do that. Need to stay at least within the existing footprint, since you can't meet the 25-foot restriction. So we redesigned, and the back and forth, we had appraisals done. We had the engineer show the existing and the proposed. We have it all labeled with the dimensions. Now the proposed addition is going to take up a portion of the existing deck, and the existing deck is going to be replaced in the same place because it needs repair. So you can see there the cross hatch section is the expansion of that little bump out bedroom there. A portion of the original cottage is on blocks, but most of this is on piers. And we're going to be obviously removing posts that are currently there and replacing them. And there'll be 19 removed and 13 will be used to replace and support the addition and the existing portion of the bedroom and the replaced decks. The lowest support member is over 2 feet above the flood elevation, which is elevation 9, and that's on, thank you, Julia.
Great. Let's see if I can find that. Right. This wasn't the elevation.
Yeah, that's
was
it. Yeah, move over
Okay.
to the, yeah, move it to, there you go. So that shows the elevations. It's also greater than 2 feet above the existing grade in that area on the east side. So we meet the elevation rule and we meet the 50% rule. Let's see. Well, we meet the 25% rule. I'm sorry, the 50% rule. Yeah. The addition of living space will be 131 square feet, and that's less than 25% of the 689 square feet existing. And on the 50% rule, the value of the increase in the size of the bedroom, $7,000, will be less than 50% of the existing dwelling, $119,000. Now, I believe that the appraiser is online with us as well, Scott Hammerstrom. And if there are any questions regarding the evaluation of the property, I'd have to defer to him. But we included all that information in the filing, obviously.
Yeah, the both appraisals. So they did an appraisal of the existing dwelling and an appraisal of the proposed new dwelling after construction to show that it was not going to be more than 50% increase in the value. And then filled out the substantial improvement form. So that's all set and signed and certified by their licensed appraiser, who I think you're right was on the line, but now I don't see him in the attendees. But nevertheless, we have all of that information. It's actually included in the notice of revised notice of intent that Michael C. Camp.
Yeah, and then Julia, I think you had the question the last after we initially filed regarding any temporary disturbance, and I have the restoration plan outlined. We don't know the extent that it will be, but we know what the final result will be when we restore, and it'll mostly be it'll all what we restore will be beach grass, Ammophila, Bevilli Galata, and wherever there's a disturbance. And the area is not maintained as lawn. There is between the deck facing the wetland is a lot of rugosa rose, which likes it on the sand, as you all know. And that's pretty much it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just scrolling through these plans, you can let me know if you want me to stop anywhere. This is showing the new pilings, the new helical piles that would be put in to support the addition. And here we can see a little more detail in the floor plan of the added bedroom over the existing deck.
Right. So the addition will be taking up space of the existing deck. There'll be no increase in the footprint of the property, and everything will remain open underneath the decks and the addition.
Yeah. Right. So this is actually pretty straightforward. You can see here what this is the final elevation. Am I correct, Michael, that this solid area with no windows, this is the new
That's
added
the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
which was a continuation of this existing sort of deck that we're
Yeah.
moving around.
Yeah, and the wetland is to the right of that graphic. Yeah.
The wetland is down here, sort of down gradient, and
Right.
it's salt marsh. So this is really right on the salt marsh and right on the basin. But this addition, the impacts are really from the new helical piles, from the replacement of the old deck with new decking and new helical piles. But it's all temporary impact and no permanent new impact to any part of the dune or the salt marsh, because again, there's no change in footprint.
Correct.
So did we have a high tide line anywhere on any of the drawings? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, probably on the, let's see.
Yeah, well, we have the flood elevation. I would say the high tide line is probably that contour below the wetland line.
Seven right here, 7 feet.
No, further down,
No?
the other
Further
side.
down. 6 or 5?
Yeah, 5, but be about 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because my delineation is actually bordering vegetated wetland, and it borders, salt marsh / mud flat. So there's a section between my flags and that contour that we just looked at, which is basically a bordering wetland. It's not a salt marsh.
Okay. So there's no Spartina in there.
No Spartina there, correct.
A little further.
The
further
seaside goldenrod, which usually is on the piles when they dug the ditches. That's where that grows. So it's just above the high marsh.
Okay. And you're in the 25-foot no disturb zone, but we're
not going any closer.
Right. Okay. Okay, looks okay to me.
Anybody else? Oh, not hearing anything. Any questions by the public? Which I forgot to do last time. No, not seeing any. What would we like to do?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Anybody opposed? No. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you, Julia, and have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
You too.
Thank you. Bye, Julia and Commissioner.
Thanks. Sure. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Just a quick question on that one. I didn't see a DEP number. Was that
Oh.
just something we put on?
Sorry, there was a DEP number issued for this, and it is 051-1046. So
Okay.
they're all set with that. It took a while, but they submitted this, originally submitted this notice of intent months ago, and just took them a while to get the revisions that we needed on elevations and some other details in the, as well as the appraisals. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right then. You get a motion to close the public hearings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? I hear none. Okay. So next item is enforcements / violations. Anything new on 1176th Street?
No, nothing, and we should absolutely have something by now from Tom Hughes on this. It's been going on way too long. So I will get in touch with him and find out why that is held up. I think it was promised to us by this meeting, so I'll connect with Tom tomorrow on that
Okay.
one. 5 Joe Run Drive. You guys all might remember. Do you want to move forward with that?
I gotta abstain, and I'm going to
Okay.
go offline here.
Okay. You guys might remember, we talked about this at the last meeting or the meeting before. It's 5 Doe Run Drive's backyard abuts essentially Joe's backyard. And there was an observed that the owners of 5 Doe Run Drive were out in their backyard, which is behind a fence. And they had previously, the previous owner of 5 Doe Run Drive had been into the Conservation Commission a couple of years ago, maybe for an installation of a fence. And there's a wetland in their backyard, and we had them specifically fence an area off and make sure that they weren't going to go back in further into the wetland. Now the property's been sold, and the new residents have been back there behind the fence in the wooded wetland, cutting down vegetation. So Joe had encountered them and had a conversation with them and thought that they might not speak English. I sent them we discussed this. We weren't really sure how much of a violation it was at the time and whether or not any real damage had been done other than some sort of clearing of some small brush. So I sent them a letter explaining that removal of vegetation in that area wasn't allowed under the Wetlands Protection Act and our local ordinance, et cetera, et cetera. And if that had been taking place, they needed to please stop. And I, cited our regs and provided them with links and information on what they needed to know. And then everything seemed to get quiet for a little while until last week. Joe saw them out there again doing the same thing. So I think at this point, we should probably follow with a more formal notice of violation, an actual notice of violation, where we request that they come in to a commission meeting and I can send it to them certified mail. Is that something that you all feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds like the right thing.
Okay. Sort of
Sounds
just
good.
the next step. And that's it. So that's what I'll do on that one. And we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think
Okay, then.
Joe, back.
Yeah, I wanted to do some continuation of, well, it's actually new business.
You want to
Julie,
do orders of
order conditions.
first?
You're right. Nope, that's next. For Kim Goulet, 5 Helena Street, order conditions.
Yes. So let's see. I actually had I've already drafted the an order of conditions for that project, and I thought I had it up here on Zoom, but it doesn't look like it. I loaded it. Essentially, it's the same. It's our standard boilerplate plus our standard Plum Island conditions. In this case, it's really just about making sure that they, have a defined area of work, which they do show on the plan with the erosion controls, and that they replace any disturbed vegetation after construction, because it's not a whole lot of new. They're not proposing any lattice. They're not proposing anything other than what the existing footprint already really shows.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any need for anything beyond that, anything else.
All right.
Motion to issue the order of conditions.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Now, we can go to Julie, Steve, and I were on, what was that, our second call with them, Julie?
Yeah, the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission.
Yeah, and they're putting together they're we're discussing management of open space. And part of the discussion was, maybe Julie possibly sent out a what's it called?
Scope of work.
Send out an RFP regarding, asking about, what it would cost us to maintain the open space parcels we have, doing mowing and, checking the boundaries and everything. And essentially doing it citywide. Partially to that end, Merrimack Valley Planning, have they already set up that app? Who was it with? West Newbury or Andover?
They had set up this app, I believe it was with West Newbury.
What? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
And it's like using MyMap, that online mapping service, but you can input data regarding certain parcels, when they should be checked and when they should be mowed and stuff like that. That would be accessible to us, and if we ever got a contractor, we would make sure they were updating that information too. Pretty much a clearinghouse for all of our open space parcels and conservation restrictions. Looks like it's going to be pretty neat app to deal with. And Julie, were they talking? You're talking about adding trails and everything to these maps too?
I think so. I think they can kind of do what they want with it. I think it's really exciting that they said today that they're going to set it up for Newburyport for us, and then hold a meeting and sort of explain how it's going to work. And they're trying to make it get a sort of a regional thing, so other towns in the Merrimack Valley could maybe join in, and we could do sort of like a group open space management program together using this app. It's very cool. So if you can put it on your smartphone, so you could be out at on a trail in Newburyport or at one of our open space parcels and look up photos and look up the latest sort of management information, or maybe you see something that's broken or needs to be addressed by the city or by the owner, and you can put that in to the notes and things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, you could upload a photo of whatever it is, and some encroachment here, and take a picture of it, and it'll show up on the map where you took the picture. So it's pretty nice setup. So hopefully we'll have something soon, and we can share it with everybody to take a look at.
So, I mean, we started out with this several months ago, as how to get the open space committee revitalized and more involved in this, and we seem to have lost track of that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
they have not
open
been
space,
involved in these meetings.
right? Those are the people who aren't showing up to our meetings. It's just,
yeah.
So, that was just, I mean, we talked about Joe and I trying out this app, but I'd like to see somebody from the Open Space Committee. And I know it's not going to be Mike Doucette, but get them involved also.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I assume that meeting that you were talking about next with them would be a Zoom meeting. I mean, the open space people couldn't attend that?
Apparently not. Yeah, that was today at 2.
they missed the last one too. I think, I mean, they've been in all the emails. I think that the members of the Open Space Committee just, I don't know that they have enough time individually really for it maybe. It's hard to say, but.
Well, do they actually have a full committee? I don't even know that they do.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Yeah. So that's hard. But I'm glad that the planning office is moving forward with wanting to set up a better management scenario for all the parcels.
Who would use the app? The planning? Would anyone use it, or is it like an open forum, or is it just for a department's use? The open space group?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think right now we're thinking that it would be used by, well, one of our struggles is finding the right person or the right entity to oversee all the management of all of our open space parcels. And right now we really don't have that individual. So that's what we're looking at. And whoever that is, or whatever entity that is, whether we contract out with like a land stewardship outfit or something, they would be using the app, but we could also use the app. So you could have access to the app. Members of the Conservation Commission could potentially have access to the app. I mean, I think all this needs to be worked out in detail. Once they set it up for Newburyport specifically, we can ask them how to get access to it. And then we can talk about, you know, who should it be public, like you said, like an open forum kind of thing. I think parts of it will be publicly accessible through the city's existing MyMap system. So a resident could go on and take a look at different parcels and see photos and things. But in terms of uploading information onto it, that might be a certain, you know, group of people. Maybe that includes the Concom, I'm not sure.
Well, I would, I would expect it would, since we're kind of technically in charge of managing open space in the city. So
Yeah,
I would think any of us who want to be authorized for it could get that.
Yep. Absolutely.
So Julia, the other question I had was, we get money from Collins Farm Road or whatever for managing their CR.
Yeah.
Do we get money from like Evergreen Commons or the Colby Farm Lane stuff?
Well, Evergreen, that's a good question. So it depends on who holds the CR and who owns the property. So in the case of a entity where the property is owned privately and the CR is held by the city, so we're sort of responsible for overseeing the conservation restriction on someone else's private property, then we should be getting a fee for that, which is like what happened on Collins Farm Road.
Okay.
But when let's say they've donated that, like behind the CVS, the Atria, all that donated land, that was given to the city. So now we're the owners of that land. We can't also hold the CR. So we have to go out and find someone else to hold the CR, like an Essex County Greenbelt or Audubon or somebody else. And then we have to give them money to monitor our CR. So that's kind of how it works. It depends on the ownership and all that.
Okay, but did we ask Evergreen Commons to give us money for that? I don't remember.
That's a good question. Well, they haven't completed the CR yet either.
Okay.
So it's still in draft form. We're supposed to be reviewing it right now. It's Copeland and Page is reviewing the CR right now. And then, yeah, I don't know.
And then there's the two properties on Colby Farm Lane, which the city's going to hold in the CR, right?
Those the city's going to hold. I don't know. No, the properties on Colby Farm Lane, they donated that land to the city.
Okay.
So we have to find someone else to hold. I don't even know if that's not even in a CR, is it?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
If it's donated land, and maybe it isn't. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'll have to check that.
So in other words, we'd be responsible for paying for the management of that, or
I don't think it is a CR.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Okay.
But yeah, all of these things glommed together create sort of a big project for, open space manager.
Yeah.
So do we have a list of the properties that we would expect a person to be managing for us? Is that?
Yeah. There is a list in the open space plan, and I've asked, Jordy's trying to get me that in Word in a Word document form, because we have a consultant who's putting together this open space plan, 5-year open space plan for us. And there's a complete comprehensive listing of all of our parcels, who owns them, etc.
Okay.
And they have that in like a PDF. We're trying to get them to just send that to us in Word so that we can manipulate it and use it ourselves. But yeah,
Okay.
it's there.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Maybe just a quick comment about our last meeting when the commissioners were in. I mean, not the commissioners, the
City council.
city councilors. Yeah, just new experience to me. And then when the counselor stayed on for our meeting and was asking us our input on the north end of Plum Island. I guess my question is, what's our role in the north end of Plum Island other than reviewing applications, things like that? I mean, it was a new experience for me to sit through that meeting and.
It was
Ron,
for all of us.
it was new for all of us. That was the
Oh,
first
okay.
time.
Yeah. It's sort of, so that was Sharif Zaid, who's the Ward 1 city councilor. And I mean, I guess you could say that part of my job as conservation administrator, working with the city and working with other city departments, goes beyond in some ways what we do just as a commission. And I've been working with DPS and meeting with the mayor and meeting with DCR and Sharif and folks out on Plum Island, talking about how to manage the dune system out there. We've done some proactive projects and things to protect the dune and plant dune grass, etc. So there is, look at this other element of what goes on Plum Island, because it is such as an island and as a coastal resource and a wetland resource. The whole island is a wetland resource area. So really everything that happens out there needs to be kind of seen by the Conservation Commission, but not necessarily a permitting project, which is why I spend a lot of time doing stuff out there. And that's why we have Plum Island updates at every meeting. There's the Merrimack River Beach Alliance that meets about once a month, and that's with Salisbury and Newburyport, just to go over what's happening on the beach management issues and erosion issues and things like this Army Corps dredging of the Merrimack and what happens to that sand, all these things. It is really a conservation. It's, any of it, like you asked earlier, do the commission have to permit what happens with that sand when they dredge it? Yeah, we will have to permit that. And so it's really important for us to be involved in all those conversations, as they're ongoing.
Okay, I just, it seems like the challenges at the north end of Plum Island are not going to go away. And, and it just seems like this, I don't know I'm struggling with our role as far as making recommendations that are more permanent than sandbags,
Well, I don't think it's our role to make recommendations. It's like somebody usually presents us with something, some concept or some plan, and we can question it and talk to them about it, and then have to approve it or not approve it. But it's like sometimes an applicant will come in with a notice of intent, and they'll say, well, what do you want us to do? And you say, no, you tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, in general, you don't want to give too many, even though, we're talking with Jerry Mullins about the bog bridge and all that. That's kind of it's a little different for that. But yeah, and stuff like that, you want to limit, you can give them ideas on what you think where they should go, but you can't be telling them what to do, because then it becomes your problem.
But at the same time, I think that a lot of people in the city and other folks out on Plum Island consider us to be more experienced and have more understanding, and we have more expertise in
Right.
the issues around the Plum Island as a coastal resource than they do. So they're coming to us to ask questions like, is this something that's permittable? Is this something that would be okay on the dune? Is this, so they need advice from the commission. We can't say, yes, that we can permit that, or no, we can't permit that, unless they present us with an actual project. But
Right.
they need advice, they need help, thinking through some of these issues. So it's on it because it's so ongoing. It's like an ongoing conversation all the time.
It's like you said, it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
I think,
That's what,
what a lot of people don't realize is that our job is to protect the resource.
Right.
It isn't to protect the houses. It isn't to protect the roads, the water, the sewer. If we can protect those things in a way that protects the resource, fine. But, we're getting to a point out there where we can't do that. And someone's going to have to make some tough decisions.
yeah, it seems like by the time people are asking us to approve something, they've already been given permission to do something. And sort of the cow's out of the barn already, and
Yeah.
our hands are a little tied,
That just sort of is happening right now. I think that's not typical out there necessarily, but in this case, because we're in an emergency in that particular neighborhood and the state's gotten involved, and you're right, it does sort of seem like they're making some decisions and then asking for Conservation Commission permission afterwards. But it shouldn't work that way, and it doesn't typically work that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad DEP has said no hardscaping, no sheet metal or whatever.
Yeah, during the MRBA meeting, one person claimed that the rocks in Newbury got a variance and were permitted. And was it a guy from
No, that was Mark Sarkady. He's head of the Plum Island Foundation. He was heavily involved in getting that all done.
Yeah, but then one guy from
CZM.
DEP, was it the guy from DEP that came in and said, no, that was not?
Oh, that was CZM, Bob Boeri from
Okay.
Coastal Zone Management. He said no. Yeah, and he's right. It was not permitted.
No.
Essentially, the state just looked the other way, and they've said they're not going to do that again. And that's why when this talk about rocks and sheet piling and things started to come up, I said, look, if that's what the proposal is going to be, then the state DEP needs to put in writing to the Conservation Commission that that's what they are willing to allow, because otherwise the Conservation Commission can't touch it.
Absolutely. It's state land. And DEP's got to say something. Because, we can vote it down, and if people want to get a superseding order, they're free to do so.
Right. It would have put you in a really hard position. It wouldn't have been right.
Yeah, and DEP has said multiple times, no hardscape there. So I guess that's why they're more willing to start dumping sand and sandbags over there.
I think that's what happened. I think
Yeah.
that's how the conversation went.
Prior to you sending your email that the bags were put in today, I was watching the news last night when I saw them going in. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if Joe approved that or something.
Yeah,
They got a lot of coverage on the news. They were out there, the water's going over them, the bags are getting washed away. It was the place to be last night for the local news people.
Yeah. I wouldn't have wanted to be there. It was bad.
It was pretty impressive. But I guess waves breaking, there's no beach, so they're just breaking on the bags basically. And whatever those logs were that were
right.
So, all righty. Do we have anything else?
I don't have anything else unless somebody else does.
What about a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, I do have one thing, and it's okay that we adjourned, but there's nothing, no new applications came in for the next meeting in February. And we continued the bridge project until the first meeting in March. So that makes that so right now there's nothing on our next meeting in February. Do you all want to hold on to that and talk about Joe Run Drive, or do you want to put it off till March?
I have no comment.
What about we get Tom Hughes about 76th Street?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get Tom Hughes about 76th Street, and if so, I'll put it on the agenda.
I mean, it can be a short meeting. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, okay. See what happens with that. I'll let you know.
See what Jerry has also.
Yeah, we'll make arrangements with him too.
We might have some more Plum Island updates.
Right.
Good chance of that. All right, folks.
Sounds
Stay
good.
safe.
Good night.
See you Sunday. Bye.